Hello friends! As you can see, we are not in the usual location. That is because it is becoming increasingly difficult to work in the workroom with the child. She's getting mobile. That also means if you can hear babbling in the background of this, I can't do anything about that. But never mind all that. I heard we were having a hot Hobbit summer / autumn. And what better way to celebrate our hot Hobbit summer than by exploring some Hobbit outfits that you can create easily, relatively inexpensively, and most importantly, with little to no sewing. And I have chosen to do so through the medium of drawing on pictures from big clothing companies' websites because I'm an iPad baby now. So, disclaimers up front. 1. I don't want to make a judgment call on which of these are fast fashion and which of these are not, because they are in that grey area where they are not Shein, but also they're not a handmade small business that you found on Instagram. All of these are examples of things that are around, available at the moment. You will most likely look at these outfits and go, I own something like this, or I could find something like that secondhand. Good, you should do that. None of this is a suggestion that you go out and buy these specific items of clothing, but you can if you want. You can if you have run out of time and you need a Hobbit outfit. Really short notice for some reason. Thing number 2, gender is a construct. Because of how the clothing industry works, basically all of these items of clothing are being shown on female models. That is because the high street does not make men's clothes that are interesting. However, many of these clothes, even though they are shown on female models, are adaptable to a men's outfit, especially if you are after a men's outfit with a little bit more flair, a little bit more pizzazz, having a little bit of fun with it. Shop in the women's section. I know I say this every single time I do a video about using off-the-rack clothes as LARP kit. Shop in the women's section, especially if it is stretchy or not shaped around the chest or a lower half garment, doesn't matter. But with that in mind, I have picked items from the internet and come up with a selection of outfits that you could create in the Hobbity vein from these specific items of clothing. Oh, I should probably also caveat, I am not good at drawing. The drawing is not the point of this exercise. Don't be weird about the fact that I'm not good at drawing. So straight off the bat, a waistcoat. Waistcoat is a great shout for a Hobbity outfit. A Hobbit outfit really benefits from an upper body layering garment, and a waistcoat is a great choice because stays are lovely, but they are expensive and time consuming to make. Now, a waistcoat like this can be dressed up really simply, so I'm starting it here with a more Regency / 18th century style shirt that you might make yourself, or that you could buy, but I'm sure you could also find a store-bought shirt that has a more relaxed feel to it than a standard button-up, but a standard button-up would probably still work. And here I am styling it with a necktie because I personally feel like the open collar necktie approach is a little bit more hobbity because it's a little bit more evocative of like a working class or a farmer's outfit, and I just don't think there's that many wealthy hobbits. Alternatively, if you wanted to dress this up with a little bit more flair, you could add a jacket, or you could consider, here I am trying out what it would look like with a different style of shirt. If you want to take this like very basic normal looking waistcoat and dress it up in a slightly different way, here I am styling it with a different kind of shirt, something more like a blouse that you would get from the women's section with a little bit more going on in the sleeves, a little bit more interest. Blouses like this often are tailored a bit around the chest, but under a waistcoat, all of that's going to be controlled and hopefully not too obvious. I've also styled it here with a sort of 18th century style workman's apron. These are super easy to make if you have a square of fabric and you can work a buttonhole in one corner, then you attach that to the top button of your waistcoat and then belt or tie it in place. And voila, you have an apron. The real thing has a little bit more to it. You can do a bit more with it, but you don't have to if you need just something for that event. Next up, if we're looking at something like the most classic idea of a women's hobbit outfit, you want a sort of gathered skirt. And luckily, long gathered skirts are very in fashion at the moment, so they are not hard to find. On this one, because it is so simple, I am just styling it with a blouse and some stays. Maybe you own a knit pair of 18th century stays, maybe you're really excited to make one. That's great. If you're a hobbit outfit, wear them with everything. I also think that skirts like this, what really elevates them to the next level is if you can layer them. So you could put an apron on top, but you could also put another skirt underneath. And in particular, if you can grab a white or light colored skirt, stick that underneath a darker colored skirt, and all of a sudden it looks like you're wearing petticoats. So let's explore what that might look like with this other skirt from Apricot. This one is white. It's got a little bit of insertion lace that you wouldn't necessarily see. It's a little bit of a better length. Maxi skirts are very in right now, and you're going to look at these beautiful ankle length skirts and you're going to think, I would love that. That will make me feel like a fancy lady in the field. The moment it rains, you will be 6 inches deep in mud. If you can sew, a worthwhile endeavor for your hobbit outfit. If you intend to wear your hobbit outfit, for example, while camping, shorten the hem a little bit. You'll thank me later. Now, Apricot have styled this with this like little summery broderie anglaise waistcoaty thing, which is not, I don't hate it. It's not terrible as a hobbity look. We layer another skirt, this one perhaps of a darker colour, over the top of the white skirt, and voila, you have a petticoat and an overskirt. I've made the overskirt a little bit shorter, but even if they're the same length, as you move, people get flashes of the white underneath. That's a historical vibe. I'm on board with that. Equally, if you wanted to dress it up a little more, again, add a little necktie, add a little jacket. Maybe it's really hot that day and you just want to wear like a light single layer. The open front is a little risque, but with the way temperatures have been getting recently, sometimes you got to have a little bit of flex. Alternatively, we could explore putting a shirt underneath that little waistcoat. Maybe adding a belt, maybe adding a external pocket. 18th century pockets are a really quick sewing project. I think they're pretty cool. They certainly fit the vibe and incredibly useful because you now have a purse hanging around your waist. Cannot recommend enough. If you have the time or the money, consider a pocket, regardless of the gender of your hobbit. And then if you wanted to wear the same outfit for another day, maybe you take off the overskirt, maybe you swap out the layers of the skirt so you have a white skirt with a darker skirt underneath. With the same items, it can look like you have a whole different outfit. Enough about skirts, let's talk trousers. A lot of people seem to go for like straight leg corduroys or chinos, all of which are fine, all of which are great. Just want you to explore the possibility of wider legged trousers. So we've kind of got two options here. One of them is culottes. A whole bunch of people are going to show up in my comments and talk about secret pants again. There's a name for them. They are either culottes or palazzo pants. It's a real thing. So these culottes are from Debenhams. They have an okay size range and appear to be on sale. Maybe you've gone for the more flowy trousers option, but you still want to be a woman. So maybe you have your shift and these trousers are loose enough that you can tuck that in and you pop your stays on top. Maybe tuck a fichu in, wear your apron, and the only thing you've changed from the same look with a skirt is what's going on your legs, but it's got a slightly different vibe. Culottes in particular do tend to be a little bit cropped, which is great both for mud and for the general like hobbity vibe. Maybe you want to make it even more feminine coded and you could try a blousier top underneath your vest or bodice or stays. You can even bring some of the skirt vibe back in with an overskirt. Now an overskirt is not an easy thing to find in the shops, but they are very easy to make. An overskirt is just a big apron that you wear backwards. If you can find a tutorial for a gathered apron and follow it, you can make an overskirt. It's the same idea. You can also just like get a skirt from the thrift shop, open up one side of it, add some ties, and now that's an overskirt. There's lots of options here. Alternatively, maybe you're trying to add a bit more flair and individuality to your male hobbit impressions. So get rid of all the aprons and the flower crowns and so on. You can just as easily pair these looser trousers with a shirt, a waistcoat, a necktie, or a cravat. Maybe chuck a jacket on if it's cold enough, or a cardigan. And there you go. You've got a trousers look that is different from everyone else's trousers look and really comfortable. Now, I mentioned that there are two kinds of big trousers, culottes and palazzo pants. Palazzo pants or palazzo trousers is a great thing to look for if you are searching for really big trousers that could mislead people into thinking that you were wearing a skirt. These ones that I found are from, I can never tell if it's pronounced Tu or Tu, it's Sainsbury's clothing line. And once again, you have options. They've styled it with this little ruched sleeveless number, and you could just wear that with some accessories. You could chuck a little blouse underneath it, pop an apron on. I've attempted to draw a bonnet here. I don't know how successful that was, but bonnets are fun to make in a way that endless base layers aren't. So this kind of wide leg trousers works great if you're playing a woman, but once again, you can pair them with a shirt. This time I've gone with a more sort of formal looking shirt, more of a cravat with the waistcoat, a little bit more of an upper class impression. There's a lot of fabric in those trousers, so you can afford a lot of fabric if you're wearing big wide trousers. This one does push the boundary a little bit more of like playing with gender if you try to style it either in a more masculine or more feminine way. That's the kind of vibe this channel has, so we're just gonna roll with it. What if you're trying to get, like, the most options out of one thing in your wardrobe? Let's talk about dresses. So if you want to get the most bang for your buck out of like one item of clothing that you have purchased specifically for this event, I suggest you look for a midi to maxi length dress with some kind of puffy or drapey sleeve in a good solid color. This one is from New Look. It is in a dark green, but I think it also comes in brown and blue. Now you could accessorize this dress and wear it just as it is. You could stick an overskirt on it. Now you have a blouse and a petticoat that happen to be the same color and your skirt. You could stick some stays on the top. Now you have a shift and a petticoat that happen to be the same color and also your skirt and your bodice. Maybe you don't want to wear the stays, maybe you just want to wear kind of a sash to break it up. Add an apron. Maybe you want to add a little shawl around the shoulders. You can always put that extra skirt underneath the dress as well if the skirt is wide enough, and then you've again got a petticoat it's a color, but it's building up the interest and the volume around your hips and your legs. Of course, a lot of people want their blouses and petticoats to be white. It's easy to find these sort of puffy sleeve dresses in white. It might just give you slightly fewer options when it comes to, say, wearing it as an outer layer on its own. It's still perfectly fine. I would do it. I just know that a lot of people are uncomfortable with wearing an all-white outfit, even with, for example, a waistcoat and an apron on top. We could also explore a slightly different style of dress. So this one from ASOS, it's got a scoop neck and a sort of fitted bodice, no sleeves, big long skirt. Now this can also be your underlayer, especially if you're wearing a different blouse. It's essentially a bodiced petticoat at that point, right? But also, especially if you are uncomfortable with wearing more structured garments around your upper body, this is gonna do the work of your stays or waistcoat. So maybe you just chuck a blouse underneath it, maybe a petticoat as well, it's optional. Put a belt on, put an apron on, add a little pocket, maybe a sun hat. There's a whole vibe going on here. Or maybe you do put a blouse underneath it again, but you put an overskirt on. Now you've got a stays kind of thing going on with a separate skirt and blouse. It doesn't look like it's all one thing anymore, even though you've got that extra skirt layer to behave like a petticoat. I know a lot of people who are wanting to play women at their Hobbit events are often trapped into the idea that they need to wear these very structured bodices. It can be stretchy, it can be fine. It will give the illusion of being stays or jumps or whatever, but it's actually just the bodice of your dress and it's fine. It looks really good. Next up, we have this admittedly very expensive option from Monsoon, which I am coveting a little bit. What if we combined the strappy bodice makes up for the stays slash jumps slash waistcoat idea with the wide-legged trousers idea? Well, then we have a jumpsuit. I know it's denim. I know people are a bit twitchy about denim because while denim has a long and storied history, it feels very modern, but I don't think it's too denim, you know? But there's lots of ways you could dress this up. Maybe you just want to put a blouse underneath it and maybe add a belt with some accessories. Maybe you think you want to pop a jacket over the top. That would also work great. I haven't drawn a lot of like jackets and cardigans and overlayers into these because they just cover up everything else, and I want you to assume with basically every outfit you can put a jacket or a shawl or a long line cardigan or something over the top of any outfit, okay? If you get cold enough in the evenings, you should. You could also femme this up a bit more by using a more flouncy, obviously feminine blouse, maybe an overskirt. You know me, I love an overskirt. I got into the theming a bit with this one. I think this person in my mind is a beekeeper, and so I have done some like bee themes. I told you I wasn't good at drawing. We're getting into some slightly more unconventional ideas now. So this shirt dress from Muji, I know Muji are very expensive, not that size inclusive. Things in this style are available from other places. I just happen to be exactly Muji's target market, so I knew about this one. These sort of long line shirt dresses are having a bit of a moment right now, and I think they're great. Because on the one hand, that's a shirt. You could pop a waistcoat and a skirt or an apron, something over this. I know I've made it look very shapeless. Obviously, if you cinched it in, it would be more cinched in, but I can't do that on the drawing. But it's doing your shirt slash petticoat combo, right? Giving you a little bit more of a masculine looking shirt top, if that's a thing that you'd be interested in, as opposed to the very frilly puffed sleeved milkmaid style dresses. But also, they button up the front, so you could unbutton it. Shirt dress like this, you could just unbutton the whole way and wear open as a sort of long line duster coat, maybe over a really simple shirt, some trousers, a waistcoat, a set of stays if you have a set of stays. It's in this interesting space where it can do double duty as both a base layer and an outer layer. And again, just a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more variety, this using the same pieces to make more outfits. I've got a couple more ideas that work in a similar sort of vein. So the simple tunic, always a great shout. Again, these are having a bit of a moment. This one I think is sea salt, which again, expensive, but very available on a secondhand market. And you could just wear this as a shirt. You could just put a sort of Stacey top thing and a skirt over the top. It's just another shirt in your repertoire. Or maybe you're wearing it as like a smock, an overlayer to protect your clothes. So maybe you don't have a waistcoat or you don't want to wear a waistcoat, but over your shirt and trousers, you put this workman's smock. And it's going to do that job of like an apron protecting your clothes, but it's just giving it a little bit of a different vibe. And it's importantly like not constricting your torso, which is something that I know that can be an issue. Another variation on that idea is I've got this pinafore dress from Marks and Spencer's, and initially you're going to look at that and go, how are you ever going to style this in a hobbity way? Maybe it's really hot and that's just your shirt. You put a skirt over the top, maybe a shawl to cover your shoulders. It's basic, it's not very interesting, it's not like the most on-brand Hobbit look ever, but it's an option for that very, very hot day. Equally, maybe it's your outer layer. Maybe again, you're putting on your blouse and your skirt or your trousers, and you don't want to wear stays and you don't want to wear a waistcoat. Chuck this over the top. And again, it's your smock. It's protecting you from the dirt and dust and whatever job you've decided your Hobbit does. But with the square neckline and the decoration, it's giving a little bit more of the stays look to it. So it's a little bit more feminine, but again, crucially, it's loose, it's not fitted, it's not compressing your body. It's another slight variation on the hobbity look that is a little bit more unconventional. It means you won't look like all the other hobbits. It means you don't need to make anything complicated. And that is all of our hobbity look. I apologize if that was slightly rushed. I was trying to fit in gaps when the child is not screaming. That's obviously just a small selection of ideas, but I hope gives you some idea of how you could move towards having a bunch of pieces that you can mix and match and create several different outfits out of, so that you don't have to take a whole bunch of complete outfits if, for example, you needed 4 or 5 days of Hobbit looks. The Hobbits in The Lord of the Rings are really styled after European folk costume, and that kind of folky vibe is having a real resurgence. There's a lot of maxi skirts though, and I am serious. If you can, take those hems up. You will thank yourself for it. A lot of the interest in these outfits though is going to come down to accessories. I have a whole video about accessorizing LARP outfits. It's over here. I have a whole playlist of how to build LARP outfits out of your wardrobe. I will also link that in the description box. There is a lot going on that you can do if you want to LARP without spending a lot of money or learning how to sew. And believe me when I say that doing a Hobbit look is one of the easiest. There is so much out there that you can just buy, thrift, borrow, already have in your own wardrobe. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to keep the YouTube gods happy. Follow me on other platforms to get stuff. I don't even pretend to have a consistent social media strategy at this point. I'm just desperately trying to get anything out there. Down in the description box you will find the links to my Ko-fi page or to become a channel member. Channel members get a couple of extra perks, but no matter how you choose to support the channel, I could not do what I do without your help. I'm being yelled at by 2 small animals, so dream big, and I'll see you next time.